That's good. Right, we got to get the show on the road here. Amanda, you're doing a fabulous job. 2 claps for Amanda. There we go. While I'm at it, 2 claps for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah. Okay. In the interest of national unity, 2 claps for the Ottawa Senators. Just 2, don't get carried away. All right. Apologies for the raspy voice, first of all, and to all of you who are from Ottawa here tonight, I lost my voice the other night watching Max Domi score in overtime, so there we go. And Amanda, sorry, I'm taping the game tonight, so if you don't give updates as the night goes on, I'd be really grateful. That would be wonderful. This is gorgeous, and I want to say, my wife and I have a camp on Manitoulin Island, half an hour from where these gorgeous awards are made, and so this, I know exactly where this is going, in our camp on Manitoulin Island, to remind me of the great artistry and the wonderful gathering we have here tonight. Perfect. 2 claps for that. Look what you've started, Alfred. Look at this. Isn't this great? Okay, good evening, everybody, and congratulations to everybody else being recognized for their outstanding accomplishments. I'm very proud to be in your company, and if I can play favorites for just a moment here, because I know one of you a little better than I know all the rest of you, and that is, I want to say that it is a pleasure to share this evening's festivities with the woman who has, in my view, been the best representative of the Crown that Ontario has ever had. She always tells me, hang on, we just do 2 claps, we don't do multiple here. She always tells me now that she doesn't have the job anymore, just call me Liz. And Your Honor, I will never call you Liz. You will always be Your Honor to me, and it is so neat to share this event with you here tonight. So thank you, Elizabeth Dowdeswell, for everything you have done for the province of Ontario as Lieutenant Governor. And, okay, 2 claps for Liz. There we go. For her honor, excuse me. Let's see. You know, now that you don't have the job anymore and you're getting up here to speak later tonight, I'm going to be very mischievous and say, you really need to dish some dirt about stuff we have not heard about before while you were on the job. I look forward to that. I have been to this dinner many times in the past, and the notion that I would be up here joining a list of Solomon Award winners, most of whom I know and have great respect for, frankly, it's a little bit trippy. And you know what? I got an email earlier today from 96-year-old Bob Nixon, who's the former leader of the Ontario Liberals, who clapped from Tim Murphy and group over there, no doubt. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Hyman Solomon, but Bob Nixon did, and he emailed me to congratulate me. Mr. Solomon covered Queen's Park. I cover Queen's Park, have for about 4 decades, and to be following in his footsteps was obviously somewhat meaningful to Mr. Nixon and hugely meaningful to me, so I'm pleased to be in that same conversation. Eddie Greenspan called me a few months ago to give me the news about this tonight, and then he said, do you have any questions? And the only question I could think of asking was, why? I don't work for a big national newspaper like Stephanie Nolan or a big circulation newspaper like Susan Delacourt, previous winners. I don't work for a big national broadcaster like Peter Mansbridge or Craig Oliver did, past winners. I've spent the last 3 decades at a relatively small regional television station. Beyond that, I didn't think I was old enough to get one of these lifetime achievement things yet. But the other day I was on a subway and a young woman looked up at me and said, "Sir, would you like a seat?" So maybe I am at the age where you start getting considered for this kind of stuff. It has been my great good fortune to have worked at TVO for 32 years, the last 19 of which, as Amanda indicated, I've spent hosting a program called The Agenda. Every night when I sign off, just 2 claps. I'll take 2 claps. That's okay. Yeah, thanks. Every night when I sign off, I usually end by promoting what's coming up the next day, and then I say, we'll explore that tomorrow. And that is what has been so wonderful about my job, the thrill of exploration, of learning something new every day. It really has been quite a gift. The Agenda is actually the 6th show that I have hosted in my time at TVO, and I'm delighted that the Public Policy Forum thinks that some of what TVO and I have done together has been useful in making some kind of contribution to the public's better understanding of our world. Now, you can't spend more than 4 decades in journalism without wanting to thank innumerable people for the role they played in this wonderful ride. I could thank hundreds, but we do want to eat, so here goes. Only 2. More than 5.5 decades ago, there was an Ontario education minister who thought that learning ought to be a lifetime pursuit. And he liked the notion of the province of Ontario having its own TV station to help in that mission. And so he created TV Ontario. And in doing so, I think he changed the lives of millions of people in this province and around the world, because TVO has sold its wares in 100+ countries around the world. That education minister's name was Bill Davis. Very good. And he would go on to become, in my humble opinion, the best, most impactful premier of my lifetime. He often teased me by saying, "Paikin, if it wasn't for me, you'd have been unemployed the last 20 years. I never argued with him because I feared he might actually be right. Anybody in this room who has had the pleasure of knowing Mr. Davis will know that he was not a perfect man, but he was as good as it gets in public life in this country, and I appreciate the chance to remind people of that whenever I can. So I am here tonight. He died 3.5 years ago at the age of 92, having lived longer than any premier of Ontario ever, having retired as the second longest serving premier of Ontario ever, and having changed this province and country immeasurably for the better. Our relationship started with me being a kind of a young, snot-nosed punk who would stick microphones in his face and try and get clips at Queen's Park, but it ended up in a quite wonderful friendship. In fact, I wrote a 600-page biography of Mr. Davis, and I'm quite sure he never read any of it. But I do miss him every day. The second person I need to thank is the person who has shared me with TVO, and that's my wife, Francesca. She has had the misfortune of being married to someone who truly loves what he does, and that has often meant my not holding up my end of things in the rest of our lives, and she would be the first person to tell you that. But she has done so with love and understanding, if not always completely happily. I do know I would not be standing here today without her, and I hope she knows how grateful I am. She really should know how grateful I am, because I've just said it in front of nearly 1,000 people, so we do have witnesses to that now. Just finally, I should tell you that TVO announced earlier, oh good, a nice, more than 2 claps per fra. Excelente. I should just finally tell you that TVO did announce earlier this week that the agenda is coming to an end at the end of June. Both TVO and I agreed when I signed my current contract 3 years ago that this would be it. Why? Well, this goes back more than 30 years to a conversation I had with Barbara Frum when I was working at CBC still. And she said, "Steve, one day you're going to wake up and people will just get sick of looking at your face." So I wanted to be sure that I left the party an hour early rather than a minute too late. I will still be doing this nerdy little podcast I do with John Michael McGrath called the On Poly Podcast. It'll be on, 2 claps for that, okay, great. It'll be on every Friday night on TV. And I'm going to keep doing a weekly column that Amanda referenced so I can continue to inflict my views on the unsuspecting public. But I got a bit of runway and a lot of energy left, and I want to try a few new things, which you can't do when you're hosting a daily show, and I'm in the process of sort of figuring out what all that's going to be right now. I watched a lot of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson when I was a kid, and the words he signed off with, the year I started at TVO, really resonate with me today. He said, "I found something I always wanted to do, and I have enjoyed every single minute of it." And that's how I feel too. Thank you for having me. Have a great evening, everybody.